The scandal of the incarnation, writes Kathleen Norris in today's Give Us This Day devotional. The scandal of the incarnation is that God relied on female flesh to come into the world. We gladly celebrate Jesus' birth at Christmas, she writes, but images of Mary depicting her baby bump can be criticized as sacrilegious. Contemporary women experience a dichotomy. As recently as 40 years ago, married women were forced to leave their Christian school teaching once their pregnancy became visible. So, she writes, let's celebrate Mary and Elizabeth, pregnant women greeting each other with the words God gave them. Both are blessed because they believed what God had promised would be fulfilled. Norris concludes her devotional with saying, let us be willing to use the bodies God gave us to help bring Christ into the world. Scandal, impropriety, shame. Our English word scandal comes from the Greek word, from the New Testament word. It's a contested term. Jesus warns repeatedly against being a scandal, a stumbling block for the little ones, the ones on the margins. Don't do anything to offend them, he says, to trip them up on the Jesus way. The word is also applied to Jesus, who is repeatedly called a scandal himself, the stumbling block, the disgrace for the religious powerful, the stumbling block turned cornerstone. The poet-prophet Isaiah warns people walking in the dark that God will become a stumbling block for them. And then says, but the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, God is with us. In his gospel and in the book of Acts, Luke identifies three great scandals of inclusion. Shameful welcome. In Acts chapter 10, Peter is scandalized when his sermon is interrupted by people responding in faith to the message. Scandalized because these are uncircumcised Gentiles who've been excluded and now God is including. Luke chapter 8 tells us about the scandal of a coeducational school of discipleship that Jesus is running, tuition paid by the women who are following along with the male disciples. And in Luke 18 and 19, the third great scandal of inclusion in Luke's gospel is the inclusion of rich and poor together. The first story of a great rich ruler ends in sadness as he walks away empty, but the second has the glorious story of salvation in Zacchaeus' wonderful pre-Easter giveaway that results in enrichment for the poor. The old boundary lines, religion, ethnicity, race, economic class, gender, all these lines are washed away by Jesus, who invites all to belong. Little wonder that the first of three great Christmas poems sung by Luke and his characters is by a scandalous unwed mother, Mary. Little wonder that she repurposes a song, a scandalous song first sung by Elkanah's number 2 wife, Hannah, when she dedicated Samuel. Little wonder that this song has become one of the most popular Christmas choruses. Mary, did you know? The common version of a song that flattens out the scandal into a Hallmark-ready chorus. Mary's poem ranks her up there with the greatest of the Old Testament prophet poets who imagine a world in which God, Yahweh, is a real character on the world stage. Using Brueggemann's language, Mary imagines the world as though God, the creator of heaven and earth, Yahweh, God, Father of Jesus Christ, described in the New Testament as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is a real character, a real agent who changes things in the world. That imagination can only be scandalous because it rocks the right side up world of white, wealthy, patriarchal, cisgendered, heteronormative, consumeristic militarism, which is usually considered, recognized as the agent that determines all. This is biblical faith. It's biblical faith that brings a woman to proclaim the good news, salvation. And Luke is simply fitting into a pattern that was established throughout the First Testament. The trafficked Egyptian slave girl, sex slave Hagar, the only character in the Bible to give God a new name, the one who sees me. Miriam and a women's chorus sing praise to Yahweh, the deliverer who liberates slaves from captivity. The prostitute Rahab tells the Hebrew spies in a condensed version the covenant loyalty story of God's liberation. Ruth resists the strongest anti-immigrant legislation ever known to become an ancestor of David and of Jesus. The Queen of Sheba never makes it into the story of the line of promise, but she's the one who declares to the all-wise, all-wealthy Solomon the human vocation given to all, given particularly to him, to practice justice and righteousness. All of this Mary anchors in a promise that concludes her poem, recalling Abraham and the promises that have been given him. If the law then stresses working here in interpreting the poem, we have to understand why Abraham's promise is the root of what Mary's talking about. So in Genesis chapter 18, verse 19, God is on the way to Sodom and Gomorrah and asks, would it be right to keep Abraham from knowing what's about to happen? And Genesis 18:19 reads, no, for I have chosen him, that he may charge his children and his household after him. Paul tells us that we are also included in this family, this line. God has charged Abraham to charge his family, to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring about for Abraham what he has promised. The doing justice of welcoming the lonely ones, the orphans, the widows, the undocumented. Not only does Mary fit within this biblical theology, but using Hannah's song scandalizes readers ancient and contemporary by not only speaking hope to those of us who came this morning in loneliness, in grief, in mourning, but also addressing me and all the other big shots who came with thinking we have more accumulated wealth than our all too comfortable lifestyles can ever consume during our lifetime. This word is so scandalous that every commentary I consulted rejected the plain meaning of the words. That is, the words that say things like, well, first it says, of course, the things that we want to agree with. The hungry will be fed. The victims of violence redeemed. The empty filled. The degraded experiencing repatriation. The lowly raised out of the dump heap of loneliness, homelessness, and hopelessness. But Mary also speaks with white-hot clarity to those in power. The proud are scattered, the powerful thrown down, the rich have their bank accounts and Wall Street portfolios emptied out. The full have to hire themselves out to the fast food industry in order to keep enough calories in the system. It's a scandal. It's improper. It's shame. If Mary's right, and she must be right if Luke and Jesus, who follow her, are also correct, that it's Jesus who proclaims the year of Jubilee. Sight for the blind, hope for the hopeless, freedom for captives. If Mary is right, then the only hope for those of us who are caught on the wrong side of the wealth and power, our only hope is to turn over all our values, to turn them on their head and to engage in radical self-giving that characterizes Mary and Elizabeth and Anna and Simeon and Joseph and Jesus. The model we must emulate is the Lynette Madrigal, who gives a year in her prime to serve American immigrants in Guatemala City. The minister in training on our scholarship brochures must be Sarah Gurley, studying in Elkhart. The senior statesman that I, as I age, hope to emulate must be Stan Friesen, Dolores Friesen, committing their lives to driving to LA and helping 85 plus Afghan families coming to settle in Fresno, and then whipping back to sit in a room on this campus in order to listen to the faith story of one of our neighborhood people wanting to join the church. The scandal of Mary's song is indeed that there has been a radical inversion of values, so radical that the collapse of wealth and power demands violent metaphors of brokenness, killing, and being sent straight to hell, according to Hannah's song, or scattering the proud and emptying the rich, in Mary's words. Only such powerful scandal can empower us to treasure, share, and mutually carry the loneliness, the sorrow, the brokenness, the grief, and allow God's arms of love to wrap around each one and to treasure these stories and these memories as being a way in which God is present here with us. Hear the powerful revision of Mary's song, rewritten by Jennifer Henry 4 years ago, to capture our ears with the song that rests on traditions of thousands of years of singing. Mary, did you know that your ancient words would still leap off our pages? Mary, did you know that your spirit song would echo through the ages? Did you know that your holy cry would be subversive words that the tyrants would be trembling when they know your truth is heard? Mary, did you know that your lullaby would stir your own child's passion? Mary, did you know that your song inspires the work of liberation? Did you know that your jubilee is hope within the heart of all who dream of justice, who yearn for it to start? The truth will teach, the drum will sound, healing for the pain, the poor will rise, the rich will fall, hope will live again. Mary, did you know that we hear your voice for the healing of the nations? Mary, did you know your unsettling cry can help renew creation? Do you know that we need your faith, the confidence of you? May the God that you believe in be so true. May it be so. May it be true. Amen.